It is Thursday, February 25th, and it must be time for another really big class. I have been looking forward to today's class for weeks and weeks, ever since I got in touch with Aaron Schwebel, and he said yes. I knew that today would be one of my favorite days of the really big class. A lot of my guests I've either not met in person or haven't known that well, or we haven't seen each other for years and years and years. Aaron is one of my newer musical friends. We met at a summer festival in 2018. Is that right? 2017.
I think 2017.
Maybe. No. 2017. It was 2017
Yeah.
in the wilds of Canada. And I'm just going to tell you a story from my very first encounter with Aaron, who is a very serious and wonderful musician.
I'm very nervous right now.
You're going to hear all about his, and you'll hear from him directly in that regard. But my very first encounter with Aaron was after traveling for something like 40 hours, I think it took me to get from London to Victoria, BC, British Columbia, where I met up with the rest of the musicians for this festival. This festival was called Music by the Sea, and it takes place on the tell me if I'm getting the geography right, far west coast of Vancouver Island. Is that correct? And we all met up in Victoria. And I was a last minute replacement for this festival. I was not meant to be there. And then it just sort of worked out that I was, and it took me forever to get there. And what I didn't know is that meeting up in the parking lot of the music building at the University of Victoria was really just the beginning of the journey. And so you can picture sort of a parking lot at a university off season. So it's basically empty with a coach and a van and a bunch of musicians milling about who all knew each other, and me kind of standing there completely jet lagged out of my brain. And everyone's like, well, we have to wait till Aaron gets here. We can't leave until Aaron gets here. And then this like impossibly cool guy he strides across campus in sunglasses and I think you had a bomber jacket on. Like, you looked kind of out of place for Victoria. And he's carrying this bag from Walgreens that's like spilling over. Walgreens is a drugstore, a pharmacy, kind of like Boots. And it's like spilling over with stuff. And he's got his violin and this huge suitcase. And this bag, you probably don't remember this, but it's obviously quite vivid in my memory. You come up to the coach and everyone's giving hugs and, oh, Aaron's here. Okay, we can go. And then we load onto this coach, and you went down the aisle, the center aisle, and you passed out water and masks, dust masks, what we are now very familiar with, surgical masks. And you handed these out to everyone on the coach. And I'm like, what is this guy doing? Like, why do I need a mask? Where are we going? Well, and you were like, trust me, you'll want it. And that was my introduction to Aaron. Trust me, you're going to want this mask. And after about an hour of highway driving, the coach then stopped at a grocery store, a supermarket, where Aaron then completely took charge of how many of us were there? Maybe 20 people. He completely took charge, gave each of us a list of what we were to get at this supermarket. And what I didn't know is that we had to pretty much pick up everything we needed for the 2 weeks of the festival at this supermarket stop. Everything. I didn't know this. Aaron did. Thus the list, because we had about 15 minutes to do it. So that happens. And again, I'm so jet lagged. Like, I don't know what's going on. We pile back onto the coach. They turn off the main roads and start going on back roads. And then the back roads become a dirt road. And then the dirt road becomes a logging road. And that lasts for 2.5 hours. Dust masks, surgical masks. And Aaron was right. We needed them. So that was my introduction to Aaron Schwebel. Then we arrived, and then the music making started. And it all made sense because we were in this tiny, well, it didn't make any sense at all, actually, because we were in a tiny fishing village on the west coast of Vancouver Island that you can only get to by seaplane, boat, or logging road, 3 hours of it, and no grocery stores. There's like literally one intersection. No people live there really. And yet there was a 2 week long music festival that we played together in. So that was my introduction to Aaron, and then I did it again the next year. So clearly, and I don't even. How many times have you been to Bamfield, Aaron?
I did it 8 summers. So the dust masks came from years of making mistakes and having to inhale dust for way too long. And it's a very fly by the seat of your pants festival for the 2 weeks. But having done it for a few times, I knew that we had this tiny window to get groceries, and it was probably the worst car trip anyone can take in their life. And so you had to be prepared.
Exactly. And I think maybe it might not be a full 2 weeks. Maybe it is. I don't remember now.
Almost.
But
Yeah.
you and I think we cooked together probably every day. You and I ended
Mhm.
up being sort of the chefs for the festival that
Mhm.
year,
Mhm.
including things happening like the director of the festival showed up one day with, I don't remember how many dozens of oysters, and we
Mhm.
didn't have any space for them. So it was like,
Mhm.
okay, the concert's in an hour. We have 6 dozen oysters. Something has to happen, and it's not warming up.
Do you remember the crab risotto that we had to make a crab risotto, but one of the housemates was allergic to crabs, so we basically had to ask her to stay somewhere else for the night because that's all we had to cook. And then we also had to perform that night, so we ended up rehearsing for 5 minutes each time the risotto was absorbing the broth.
I believe that was our Prokofiev. Or it might
Oh,
have been
okay.
Bartok. It might have been our
Yeah,
Bartok
I think it was Bartok.
that we were
Yeah.
rehearsing between stirring the crab risotto. And
Mhm.
then my other favorite memory from Bamfield was you and I were late for a rehearsal, like it mattered, but we were late for a rehearsal and we were on the wrong side of the inlet of water and we didn't have time to walk up to the concert hall. So we took a boat. Do you remember this?
Yes, I do.
We hired the water taxi to take us
Hmm.
with a Stratton Iguanini.
Yes, I do
And
remember
the
that.
and the water taxi was just like this dude's boat. I mean,
Mark. Yeah.
so crazy times, great music making. We had a chance to play together in Toronto as well, where Aaron is, I'm going to get this wrong, but I'm going to try to get it right, concertmaster of the ballet and associate concertmaster of the opera, tremendous musician, loads of fun. And I can't wait to spend the next couple of hours with you. So thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for that introduction. I'm really looking forward to working with each of you. And as I said, I really enjoyed your videos. So I hope this is useful for everyone. I hope it's enjoyable. And yeah.
Let's get to it. So first up, we have Katherine Stonham playing the first movement of the Beethoven Concerto, just the exposition. Otherwise, we'd be here a long time. So, but I'm really looking forward to sharing this. So here's her video.
Hello, Catherine.
Thank you, thanks.
So I bet it's been a while since you've played with piano.
Sorry?
I said I bet it's been a while since you played with piano, right?
Oh, yes. Yeah, not since like November sort of
Yeah, these
time.
days. Um, it would be so great to hear you play with piano. The reason I'm saying that is just because the orchestra part is such an important part of this concerto, and I know that just having those things in your ear. Have you played it with piano before?
No, I haven't, no.
So I'm sure that so much will change for you and become clear when you play it with the orchestra part, just because what happens underneath you will inform the colors you choose, the articulation you choose. Just the violin solo part fits like a glove with this orchestra part, and as much as you can, it would be great to allow you to imagine that orchestra part while you're playing this, because I think that'll really set you up for understanding your role a little bit more as a soloist. The first thing I'll say about this concerto is that the first movement especially is so long, right?
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to feel long. And I think the violin part, the solo violin part, is so meandery, and it revolves around the melody, which is so often in the orchestra part. I think rarely do you actually have the melody in the solo violin part here. It's noodling around the orchestra, and so it's really important to boil things down with this part and find what the important parts are, so that every note isn't important, but to really understand, like, okay, what's my destination when I start this really long passage that just sits on the dominant for infinity. Where am I going, right? And so that each note isn't important, because when each note's important, the movement feels very long and very notey. And so that's sort of my overarching comment with this movement, is to look for opportunities to group things together and to understand what parts belong to the same harmony. What is the role within the harmony? Like, are we standing on the dominant here? Is this a resolution? Because that really informs like what kind of intensity you bring, and or lack thereof. So the very beginning is a perfect example, because all we're doing is sitting on the dominant until we resolve to the very high D in measure 101. And so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 bars to get there.
Yeah.
Right? So, I mean, even with these first octaves, our destination is that. First of all, I'll say you play with really nice intonation. That's great for this concerto. It's such a good exercise for left hand intonation, and I got a lot out of it when I learned it. But you really have very nice intonation, so I applaud you for that. So that G has to feel like a destination. So if I were you, I wouldn't broaden on the first three. To me, there isn't uncertainty there. You're just spelling out an A major triad. But then I think towards the end of that is where the stickiness sets in, you know?
Yeah.
And then that top G should be almost unattainable. You don't want to achieve that G with too much predictability, because that G is what eventually gets turned into, right? So that, and you have it 3 times, so each time, and this time, we begin to float down. So not too expressive, not too notey through. Because if it's too, you see, there are just too many stops along the way, and it's sort of like being on a long road trip and having someone ask you, are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? No, we're not there yet. So it's really important that once you begin this sequence, that it feels like one uninterrupted line down to the bottom. And then here we start the climb up. Similarly, it's important that this doesn't stop and go too much. A little bit, because it's written into the music. So you already have that written in the music, those little restarts, I'll call them. So, but these ones have to belong to the same group. And then you're there at the top. I think that top D is a resolution. I think that that should be hit with some sweetness and some tenderness, because we've had such a long journey to get there that it has to feel like a nice sigh of relief. So I just threw a ton of information at you.
Yeah.
No pressure to incorporate all of it, but I'd love for you to try the opening one more time and just try and create more of an arc, more of a convincing arc.
Mhm.
Wow, I thought you really improved quite a bit actually on this. I'll say two things. One, I think the way you finish is very important. I wouldn't take the bow off the string too quickly. I think you can just let the bow slow down and let the note have a natural decay. And secondly, sorry, that was a... That sforzando, I think sforzandos in Beethoven aren't quite so pointed. I think that might be more appropriate for something like Bartók. I think sforzandos in Beethoven have to have a little bit of depth. Like the onset of the sound isn't immediate. It's not like ka, but it's like ah. You know, like the weight of the note is slightly after the beginning. I think it's like, you know, if you had a high heel on, like how much force you can get if you like dug that high heel into ice, for instance. So not like that, but like if you have a softer edge on your shoe and you're kind of digging it into like wet sand or something like that. I know that's sort of a weird texture to imagine, but the way the sand would give, that's sort of what I'm after. So not like a break, but like a give. Does that make sense?
Yes, yeah, I can give it a go. Can I give it one more time?
No, it's good. So I think, just to speak technically for a second, I think the way I would do it, I sort of sink into the string. And it's like a slow bow and a pull. But the vibrato is immediate.
Mhm.
Yeah, good. And really let your arm sink into the string. When you cross the string, let your arm sink into it. Hey, yeah, that sounded great. And let the vibrato be immediate, because you want the note to be articulated by the left hand more than the right.
Okay.
Let's just go from better. That's better. I'll leave you to think about that. I sort of think about things texturally. It helps me to kind of imagine like what materials it would be similar to. So something hard on the edge is for a different style of music. But I think with this, it has to be a little bit cushioned. That landing, that G. Yeah, I'll listen one more time, maybe from the top. Maybe be a bit more careful just for that string crossing. was so beautiful. That was so beautiful. Great job. That was really, really nice. And I liked the way you presented those three Gs differently. That was really gorgeous. Okay, so the next part was quite nice also. I think same thing. Think about the whole harmony, not just the first note. So right now I'm hearing G as a surprise, but I think you can spread that out because the whole bar is that tonality. So you know, lean on the whole thing, not just the first note.
Yeah. Okay.
Bum 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 bum. It's great. It's really good. I think it's a little notey. I hear. Try to make it a bit. Just like one exhale.
Mm-hmm.
Better, better. That's really good. So I'm going to boil this down to, that's one tonality, and then you just have, you know, so is the first part of this, and then I think it's okay to outline these terraces, the terraced scale here. I think it's nice to bring out. I kind of like the open just because there's something really gentle about it. And again, we're just resolving to that D major and letting the orchestra pick up our slack. But that D that you resolve to, I have letter C. I don't know if you have measure numbers of letters.
Yeah, I've got letters, yeah.
Letters. Okay, so letter C, that's really a low point in terms of intensity. So I think just a friendly farewell there is more than enough. So this E is a dissonance in the harmonic scheme. Do you want to go from and just show me how you would build that as a phrase?
Okay.
Good. I think you could, I don't want to say slow down. I think you could ease up a little bit before the end. That was too much.
Yeah.
Just something. It's just like a handoff, right? So like, it's like giving a gift to someone or like a flower to someone. You don't want to throw it at them, but you want to just like place it gently in their hands. It's sort of like that. The gesture would not be done quickly. You know, it takes the time it takes so that it's gentle and graceful. That's really good. I think again, the G, it feels a bit too much like that high heel. I think there's a way that you can just kind of like lean on it with a bit more weight, but not so that the G is the only one that receives it.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, that was better. It's almost like, do you play piano at all?
Yeah, I do, yeah.
Imagine like there's pedal there.
Okay, right.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Oh, sorry, I forgot to slow
Really
down.
nice.
Yeah.
I really liked that though. It was very, very tasteful. Okay, so moving on. So the orchestra plays the major version of this, right? And then we come in with the minor. So we have to have a little bit more intensity in our sound, something that signals the turbulence of the minor key. I think what that comes down to really is just the immediacy of the sound and vibrato on that D. And, like, I haven't played anything, but I need that to sound like D minor instead of D major with just the tonic. So, you know, and then these little things, they're just like bubbles floating up, right? So again, with trying to stay away from notiness, not each one. I'm demonstrating, I'm exaggerating for the purpose of demonstration. That's not how you're doing it. But I think the idea that these lighten up towards the top would be useful. So, and these, it's not so much, you can almost play it like an octave, you know? All right, let's hear you do it. Great. Okay, and from that point, tempo. Because the orchestra goes bum, 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 and so they need you to be very precise with your rhythm there. This is not a noodly place. This is a place where you are just utilitarian to getting the music from this key to the key of the So this is just bridge material. Okay, this was good. Try not to divide your sound between, and this D is part of the sequence. So the way you leave it has to be the beginning of that sequence up. So don't break. Do you hear how the break just?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's almost like. So you can imagine that. Do you want to try it actually once playing that, like reiterating that bottom D?
I can try it, yeah.
Great. Try and be a little bit more rhythmic, but bum 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 bum. Great, great, really good. Okay, let's go from. And here, I think you can really get into the string and make a very, very luminous resonant sound.
Okay.
It's great. It's really nice. I think that it's tempting with this to try and bring out the harmonic changes more than necessary sometimes. I think, like, you know, Beethoven's one of those composers that his music speaks so well for itself harmonically that sometimes the less we interfere, the better. And so where that applies is here. You know, the G sharp happens. We don't have to put any makeup on it, you know? So, sorry. You don't have to hit that quite so hard. And anyway, I think the idea is good, just not quite so yeah, as I said, not too much makeup on that G sharp, because it actually ends up being a little bit shocking,
Yeah.
you know. And then this was really good. Again, you don't have to, you can just let it dissipate the way it does naturally. He wrote down the ritardando by making them 16ths to triplets. So you don't have to interfere with it too much. You can almost just play exactly what's on the page, and it sounds beautiful the way it's written.
Okay.
Do you want to try that? Beautiful. That's beautiful. The one place I would set up is just here, because that's where the orchestra's out. And so here they're leaving you to carry the torch to, right? So here I think you could set that up. And that's beginning the sequence. Sorry, I'm playing a lot of wrong notes. It's been many years since I played this concerto. That's beautiful. I'll leave that with you. You get the tune finally for 2 bars, and then the orchestra takes it back over.
Yeah.
So this this can sort of be a little bit more just something more blissful, you know, like you can really bask in that tune. Do you want to play that?
Yeah.
That's very nice. I think popular the texture a bit too much. Like that's our destination. So yeah, it melts into that. Yeah. That's beautiful. I think instead of using that E to direct towards the F sharp, I think you can just let it soak in this harmony. Without too much direction.
Yeah.
They're part of the same harmony. And then you have a new harmony. So I don't think it needs the direction. Etc. Okay, good. Let's go from. You're doing a good job kind of going from dense to light. Same thing here. We need tempo because the orchestra's playing the tune. And they don't want to have to go. Right? So we have to be very, very predictable. And I'll add to that even though you don't have the tune, create a sense of line with those notes, which just means legato, really. Okay, I'm talking a lot. You play. That's really nice. I'm just trying to give you a sense of what you would be playing along with, because it's inseparable. And this, I mean, I'm sure you love this piece just as much as I do, and this part especially is so beautifully written. I don't know any other composer who can make something accompanimental sound so beautiful, but that was what Beethoven did in his quartets too. It's just he found this way of writing counterpoint so magnificently. So we have, by the way, I tried that bowing. It sort of helps bring up the line. And then here, you're accompanimental, but texturally you're on your own, because the orchestra goes. So during, you sort of bubble up from the sand, you know? So without taking rhythmic liberties, you can take sonority liberties, you know? Like you can come out of the texture there. So I'd go for simple for this first bar. And then same thing, simple. And then expressive. Simple. And then here, not too much. You don't want to bring out that second note, even though it's higher. You want to bring out. And then a little bit of love there. And then here you come out. There, and there you can really take over. Okay, let's do this gorgeous bit of music, maybe from that was gorgeous. That was really beautiful. Lastly, here, if you can just give a little bit more mysterioso there. And where you do that, you pivot from E major, and then you can use that second half of the bar to change the color. Okay, I'm just gonna finish a couple thoughts here before I let you go. When you finish this part, whenever you resolve back to a home key, try and make the sound a little bit nicer, a little bit more elegant, because think about what you are eliding with. Right here, we're eliding with the tutti part. It would never start. Right, it would start. So if you even want to practice just playing right into the tutti part, it'll give you a sense of what feeling to finish with. Okay, I'm going to leave you there. I know we didn't cover everything that you played for me, but I hope that those ideas give you something to think about. Such a beautiful player. Thank you so much for playing for me today.
Great, thank you so much.
You're so welcome.
I think, Aaron, it's absolutely impossible to listen to someone play the Beethoven Concerto and not play along.
I know.
I was thinking about, I have a student playing this in her last in-person lesson. I was so excited. I just played along with her the whole time. I'm not sure it was helpful, but it was fun for me. I
know. It's such a great piece of music. I'm excited for you for when you can play this with orchestra or piano. It's really great.
Thank you very much, Catherine. You sound wonderful.
Yeah. So who's
All
my
right,
next?
so we are going to change gears and jump into the orchestral excerpts now that Jaimi is bringing us. I think just in case you get all wrapped up in the Brahms, we won't play them back to back. We'll share one and then you can work and then share the other, assuming there's time. So this is Jaimi. She's in North Carolina. She's going to share with us the Brahms Second Symphony first movement, and you chose the second page, which is where all the leaps come in. So I'm really glad you were brave and jumped right in there. So here is that excerpt.
Great. One of my favorite symphonies. Boy, we're really hitting all the the best of the best mainstream repertoire right now. So where is she? I just want to pin the video. So Katherine. Oh, Jaimi, sorry. There we are. Pardon me. Okay, there we are. Hi. Have you played this symphony before?
I have not played it in an orchestra before.
I hope you get the opportunity to do so at some point soon. It's magnificent. But again, it's sort of like with the Beethoven Concerto that it's hard to really understand your role from the inside out unless you sit and play it with the orchestra. Suddenly, so many things become clear. And so things I say today, you will have those understandings and realizations like the first time you play it. As soon as you hear like what comes into your ear from the flute or the cellos, it really clarifies how a lot of the stuff can be played. So I'll start from the beginning of the excerpt. Let me just find it here. Okay. So we're on the second theme, which sort of sounds like a lullaby, the Brahms lullaby. And it weaves in and out of the orchestra. You know, it starts in I think it starts in the violas at this point. And then it gets passed around. So when you do pick up the tune, I think it should be really a shift in espressivo. So like right that at that moment, that C sharp can just have a little bit more attention to it, a little bit more vibrato. You know, just so the attention is drawn to you there, because you're taking it from the cellos at that moment. And so you have to be a willing recipient of the tune in that moment. when you start, think about the intervals as what you're paying attention to for which notes are more expressive than others. So part of the same harmony, but that F sharp is, it just needs a bit more juice. So like that sixth is a bigger leap, takes longer to get to if you were a singer. And then same thing here. Don't just move through it academically. Something just a little bit more fluid with the bow. Do you want to start from the beginning? Let's just play those first 8 bars and incorporate some of those ideas. That's nice. I like the sound quality. I think that, are you doing it in 4th position so that you can vibrate every note? There's no right answer.
I didn't have a rationale for it other than that's what had been recommended to me, so that's what
That's fine. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that fingering. It's good in many ways, but I think it can't stop there. Like vibrating every note is not gonna make something expressive. You have to be expressive with your bow. You have to be expressive with how you color notes, how you leave notes. And so how you leave notes here is really important, because what I'm hearing is a little bit of decay towards the end of the bow. Like, and so you let each note die before you change notes. And I think each note needs to yearn for the next one. So do you hear the stickiness in my bow, like between those notes? I think that connection is really important. It's like the connective tissue here that you can't leave out. Do you want to just try even that A? Sorry, I'll use your fingering. It is a good fingering. I think it just needs a bit more attention to between the notes. That's really nice. When we get to this part, so by contrast here, you can let the note go because we need to have that lilt of the 3/4, and I think that will signify that you've taken over the melody. And then this, that C sharp can just gently take the tune away from the cellos. One more time. Yeah, sorry, I joined you for a second. But the reason I joined you is because that C sharp is part of it. So if you were to play this in the orchestra, you would hear that and it would immediately change the way you play the C sharp. And so that's sort of what the secret of excerpt playing is to channel all the other parts of the orchestra while you're playing this. Like it's hard to do, but that G natural, if it were in your ear, it would immediately change the way you played that C sharp. So you can try and encapsulate that without the other voices. You just have to kind of pretend they're there. That was great. Okay, so start that G with a slow bow so that it can bloom. So because what happens underneath you is the harmony changes. So already when you start this, have this in mind as your destination. So you have that 6 bars to get there, and still that's not even your final destination. because you're going there. Okay, so let's start from better. That's really good. Okay, so here, I don't want to interfere with any fingerings that you've been given, but I think for yourself, you should try a lower position, because I think this music is a bit more optimistic, and I think the lower strings give it a darkness, which it's difficult to kind of peek through the orchestra texture with a darker sound. But I think in the lower position, that can float on top of the orchestra a little bit more easily. And then here, this is something that Brahms does a lot, where the harmonic rhythm changes. And what he gives you is he gives you 5 beats of C, and then 4 beats of C, and then 3 beats of C sharp, 2 beats of D, 2 beats of D sharp, 2 beats of D sharp, and then E. So each one of these just contracts as you get towards that E minor. And so if I were you, I would punctuate those note changes to outline that harmonic rhythm. So not this one, of course, but then here. So that each one of those are like building blocks, you know, where the edges are really defined. Okay, so let's go from, and can I hear you play that in the lower position just once? I want to hear the difference in the color. That was really good. I really liked the arc that you formed there. And now here, that can be much more resolute. Like there's nothing unsure about this bit at all. Here you almost have to play like a pianist would. Yum, ba bum, like very articulated. Very, very decisive articulations. Okay, let's go right on. And it's almost happy too. It's not too harsh. There's something optimistic about this section to me. Great, that was really good. I really like that. And then, so what's he doing with the rhythm here, right? Like it's syncopated, bum ba ba, bum ba bum, bum ba bum. That doesn't really matter until you're playing against other instruments, and it's more their job to outline the actual rhythm than yours. But here, we all come together for that 3-1. So make a bigger deal out of that upbeat, and then here, same thing, very deliberate with your rhythm. You have to be like a pianist here, so that each one of these feels like building blocks. Let's go from. Sorry, I gave you a terrible place to start. You can start anywhere you like around then. Great, really good. This is one of those sections where it's obvious that Brahms' string writing for violin is a little bit too pianistic. It's really hard to do those string crossings. And this is one of those places where when you actually sit down and play with an orchestra, it's a strength in numbers moment. It's so much harder to isolate as an excerpt and play as a solo violinist than it is to actually play that in an orchestra. That being said, if you do this for an audition, you have to do your best. I think you're saying in third position, right? All you can do is anticipate, have that one ready to go as you're going. It's not here, it's kind of already standing by, Same thing with the two. That's the best trick I can give you for this section, is just to anticipate with your bow and finger. Everyone, it's a cliche to point out the hemiola here, but I'm going to point it out anyway. Yum, ba-da-dum, 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 ba-da-dum. Cellos can do most of that for you. Focus on the string crossings. Do you want to go right on that? Okay, that's good. So do you know what's happening underneath you while you're playing this? It's okay if you don't, I'm just asking.
I've listened to the piece many times, but I guess I didn't.
That's quite all right. I'm not trying to put you on the spot. It's, I happen to have played this piece a number of times, and so it sticks in my head here. But this is where the violas have their big moment. They're just going for like a page. And it's good to have, the violist in my quartet he likes to play with that kind of, I don't want to say obnoxious, but like attention-seeking sound in moments like that, and it's perfect, and it sounds like I'm saying something negative, but it's exactly the right sound for that. Something that's interfering, something that's disrupting. And so this is the thing that's being disrupted. And you almost have to play it like you're ignoring what the violas are doing. Like the violas are trying to interfere and disrupt with their... It's super honky, but here... Just like la, 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 right? So this can kind of take on that like singing like no one's listening way of playing it, Just really luxuriate, really sing, lay on the sound thick. Do you want to start from here? Good. Sorry, I gave you a little bit of something to work with, just a little bit of interference there. But that's the idea. You want to soar above it. So, very, very smooth bow changes. It's interesting, this A sharp, it just rubs against that B just enough that it creates that friction between the two voices. If it was that, it would just be a little bit too easy. Like that chromaticism makes it even more juicy. So I would lean in more to those notes that give it that friction. And then lastly, and then we'll go into the Schumann, is, where are we? The way you finish this, think about what you're joining. There's a forte piano in the second violins and violas, but here is a soft landing because we're back to that lullaby theme. That's where we are now. So, sorry, that wasn't good. So a forte piano, but a cushioned forte piano. Do you want to try that from? So don't be afraid to land on it, but just a landing that finishes with a more graceful sound. More vibrato on that last one. Actually play it as a long note once. Okay, so now truncate the sound. So yeah, that's the idea. Good. That's really nice.
Why don't we quickly share her Schumann video?
Great.
And I know a lot of people are going to want to hear what you have to say about this Schumann excerpt because it's on everyone's mind.
Okay.
But I also want to have enough time for Sibelius. But so maybe one or two little things on it.
You bet.
Okay, great.
I'll aim for
Let's hear it.
precision.
Thank you, Jaimi, and we'll hear your Schumann.
Great. You're very brave for recording this one and providing us with something to work with it for the whole class. This is a very difficult excerpt. If there are people listening who haven't played this, it's way harder than it looks. It's so difficult. That's why it's on every single audition. I commend you for doing it and putting it out there. Thank you. Okay, so what makes this excerpt so difficult? Your fingers are like cramped the whole time because you're playing in diminished key, and so you have to maneuver them across the strings this way. Nothing really sits in the same hand position. So how can we practice this so that everything is where we need it to be? And the trick is just really it's sort of what we're talking about with the Brahms also, but just anticipating with your left hand. I've been spending a lot of time watching MasterChef these days, which is a cooking show, and something they do and what they encourage is something called mise en place, which is when you have all your ingredients kind of set out in front of you before you start so that you're not like grabbing the sugar, grabbing the salt, you know, like it's all there so that nothing gets burnt while you're waiting for the other ingredient. It's a similar principle with this. You don't want your fourth finger to be like here when it needs to be here. You know, you got to have everything ready. And so I advise practicing this in blocks so that you have an entire hand position ready to go, like your ingredients in the mise en place. Everything is there. And so just practice just that. And practice anticipating when I put down, as I play that open string, I'm already getting my second finger ready for that so that I'm not leaping. And then when you have that in your hand, it's there. And where that principle becomes harder to execute is where we have to shift in those blocks. So again here, have that as a block, and then have that as a block, have that as a block, and then the last block, so that you're only shifting between blocks and not fingers. And then here, I'm using my fourth finger to shift. So that's ready. And then again, we have that. Have that block ready. Sorry. So the blocks are this. Block. Block. And so when you group these notes as blocks, it becomes a little bit easier because the notes within them belong to one larger entity. And then your brain isn't thinking about each single note, but the groups that they all belong to. So that's the left hand. With the right hand, your job is not that hard. It is, of course, with the string crossings, but it's essential to keep the bow quite compact. So if the bow kind of stays within a small region of the bow, it's a lot easier to manage these string crossings. Using too much bow makes it a lot clunkier. So I recommend really just localizing your efforts to one region of the bow. And again, this is an excerpt where the orchestra can really help you out because they're providing the rhythmic underpinning here. Bum, 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 bum. I can't remember exactly how it goes, but you can't get away with rushing when you play this with the orchestra. They keep you honest, which is great. It's nicer than metronome. The areas where it tends to rush, because it's easy. So pay attention there. I almost like to think of that as like eighth notes. Ba-ba-ba-ba-bum, ba-ba-ba-ba-bum. Like the ba-ba-ba-ba-bum keeps me honest there. And then same thing here. I would group these things as much as possible. So it's not just a bunch of 16th notes. Okay. Same thing here, very small bow. It makes it a lot harder. Then all of a sudden, it becomes like a patting your head and rubbing the tummy thing, you know? But if you can just keep it very small and simple, you can get around some of that difficulty. Okay. Do you want to try the opening once and just do it under tempo and really focus on the left hand rhythm and grouping as many of those notes as you can together? Great. Okay, so now let's do it a little bit faster. And this time in your head, try and have just the first note of each group that you're anticipating. So when you think, it's just in your head. It's almost like the E flat is like it's the part that you anticipate, and the rest just follows without having to try. So as you aim for that E flat, the left hand follows. Yeah, exactly. So like the E flat sort of like represents the beginning of that block. So as you practice this and you practice slowly, this is all ready to go. So by the time you get to here, you just initiate that sequence. And then this part, same thing, very compact bow, not too bouncy. I would say quite low to the string there. And then don't fly off the string too much so that you can be ready for that. I have my one in place already. So it's there. Do you want to try that section? Good. Try it once on the string. Just like... Exactly. Okay, so I'll leave you with this idea. Just as you're practicing it under tempo, when you turn on the metronome, it's easy to only focus on the rhythm of the bow. Really think about the rhythm of the left hand. It's possible to rush in your left hand, but not your right. So make sure that you're very honest with your left hand, that the fingers are coming down rhythmically. And also, I think it's a mistake to think that the bow should be too off the string in this excerpt. I think that thinking compact with the bow achieves that the amount of offness that it has to have. I don't think you have to try too hard to make it off already, but like all I'm really thinking about is using a small bow. I'm not trying to make it spiccato. Anyway, thank you so much for giving us the material to work with for this extremely challenging excerpt. Great job. Great to hear you play. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your feedback.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you very much. Erin, I'm sitting here thinking I can't help myself, but I think it's probably because we've cooked together so much. I'm thinking about a regional dish, mise en place, that represents the Schumann Scherzo.
Oh God, something that has like 500 ingredients and that you can burn every single one of them so easily.
Maybe for a real kitchen, not for a Airbnb in Bamfield.
Yeah, I think maybe souffle.
Thank you very much, Jaimi, and thanks for actually coming to me and asking to play. So that's great. That brings us back around to the composer of the month, Sibelius, and we are leaving the first movement behind and moving on to the second movement. I know everyone is as excited about this as I am. Eriol, you is giving us a beautiful performance of this. This is the second movement of the Sibelius Concerto, and here's her video.
Beautiful playing, Eriol. So let me just find your box here, and I will pin you, and then okay. Okay, yeah, very beautiful. I'm assuming you've played the first movement already in your life. Can you hear me? I'm assuming you played the first movement also.
Yeah, I played the whole
concerto, so you know it. Have you had a chance to play it with piano or orchestra?
No.
No. So I hope it's such a shame that we're so stuck, we're left with our own devices. You know, of course, it's the circumstances we're in right now. I really miss playing with other people. I think the theme of the masterclass today is just, in the absence of those other parts, in the absence of the orchestra or the piano, knowing what they have, hearing that part in your head, so that you always have an understanding of what your role is vis-a-vis the rest of the orchestra, so that you understand what part of the whole that you are. That was the thing for the Beethoven Concerto. Of course, it's more of a thing for the Beethoven Concerto, but also with this, you know, when you are not the primary voice, when you have an accompanimental line, it doesn't mean to play less. It doesn't mean to efface yourself at all. Not like that. It's more that you have to be subservient to the part that is the melody. What that usually means is that rhythmic liberties can't be taken quite as much as you might think. And so if you were playing in the orchestra, if you were going and someone went, it's beautiful on its own. What you did was so pensive and beautiful. But what that means for the person going, right? It's a little bit touch and go. And so some of that, of course, is all right, but you want to have the rhythm always be interlacing with the other parts that are there. So as much as I can, I'm going to try and represent an entire orchestra as we go through this together. So that's one point. I'll start at the beginning. Just in terms of sound, and in terms of sound and usage of bow, I think you can think a little bit more simple and patient. So we start, I'm playing the orchestra part, and then it's quite a patient melody. So so what I'm saying is that you don't need to feel in a hurry with any of this. Secondly, we go back and forth between notes that are consonant and dissonant. Do you know what I mean by that? So notes that belong to the tonality and notes that rub against it. And so here, that's consonant. That's part of, right? But then dissonance. Dissonant. Dissonant. Consonant. Etc. So I think that you can change your sonority, change your sound to reflect if it is consonant or dissonant. So when you start, that E flat already can just have a little bit more tension, intensity in the sound. Do you want to start the opening once? So I'm not sure if it was a Zoom thing, but your note value got twice as slow in the third bar. So when you start, make sure that it's just the tempo that you want. You know, those quarters have to be the same as. You know. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So there, we have to keep our tempo in mind. Okay, that's excellent. With these triplets, I think that they can be a little bit more even because you're playing against syncopated quarters in the orchestra. And so in order for them to fit, we can't be too free with this. Do you want to try that from... Good. That was much better. Now I'm starting to get more of a cohesive melody. Okay. Now let's just get a bit more richness in the sound. I think that the sound is a little bit, do you know what I mean when I say superficial? Like it's just a little bit suspended. It's not really into the string. I think you can let the weight of your arm go a little bit more and feel like you're playing like the bottom of your violin, you know, like when you play on the G string, you can almost feel like the hair is playing the bottom of the violin rather than just the strings, but really get to the depth of the sound by sinking in and letting your arm go. Yeah, that was beautiful. That was really nice. Okay, so let's go on. When we start here, when we hit that F, the orchestra has these that kind of scale up, and it's like these little tiptoes. And so your sound has to change here also. So it's not quite as sung, but here, it's a little bit more mysterious. Like we don't know exactly where we're going. The orchestra part, boom, 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 boom. There's nothing sure-footed about it. It's very unsure. And so here is the wrong sound for this part. Right? And then it's a little bit restrained. Let's take it right on that. So that F. No, that's good. I was just gonna play with you. Let's go from the G flat. And here, now we know where we're going. So when you land on that F, you can feel that sense of relief that we've arrived at where we were intending to go. So use that G flat a little bit more to open up your sound. Let's take the bar before, the Very good. Very good. Okay, that was a really nice sound. I think here, as we go up the G string and as we increase our intensity of our sound, I think that we need to keep the intensity a positive intensity and like a loving, passionate one, rather than an anxious, agitated one. So I think it's important to not be on the front end of the beat, not to rush. Ba, 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 ba. You don't want, it should always, you want to always kind of hold the leash, like keep it a little bit on the back end. I know it's so wolfy up there and it's so hard to really get the right sound, but as much as you can, try and let this be, the butterflies in your stomach rather than the devil on your shoulder. Let's do from.
So you mean don't rush to?
I found before was just a bit hurried. Really sing out all those small notes. They're important for the phrase.
You mean so I can take my time?
You can, yeah. I mean, you don't want to distort the rhythm, but you don't want to be pushing forward.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So when you think expansive, not expensive. I mean, although expensive is good too, but expansive, like the notes are always expanding. So that's what I mean, not to hurry. It's not to necessarily feel like you have a straitjacket on, but to feel like each of these notes are taking up all of the space that they can. So and before you land on that A, then like if you were an opera singer here, you'd have to take a breath. So you almost have to like refill your proverbial lungs here. Like, don't land too easily there. Take a breath there. Yeah, exactly. And then you use that A to let the air out of the sails. So and here we start. That figure comes into the orchestra, so we have to be very precise with the rhythm. We can, of course, it's okay if it starts slow and then gets fast, but it has to still fit within the framework of the bum 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 bum. I'm gonna try and play that figure for you. Can you play over top of me? we can probably do a better job of this not over Zoom. I don't know how efficient it is to do over Zoom, but imagine that in your head. Bum 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 bum. Beautiful, beautiful. Good. Yeah. Do you have a question?
No.
No. That's really beautiful. It's still pensive, but it fits within the orchestra part. And then this one, I'm not sure you can really slow down quite so much. I like that you're luxuriating, but try and do it with the sound and not with the rhythm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Ya da 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 da. Just let it flow into it more naturally. Exactly. Okay, so then the orchestra plays for a long time, and then we have that other patting the head and rubbing the tummy part. It's good. I think sometimes you are a little bit too quick off the like that. The C is almost a bit too short. I want to hear it still. The C sorry. That C, I think you just need to pronounce it a little bit better. Yeah, I think your rhythm may have been better before. I just maybe split the difference. My only point was that I was the last note of the was just getting a bit lost. So like sticky with the bow into the string all the way to the tip. Disclaimer, I haven't played this concerto, so you are going to be more successful with the rhythm than I will be. Great, that was so good. And now this, I think you can be a bit more immediate with that sforzando. This one's not like the other one. It's not like that one. Here we have to interrupt. So, because it's in the spirit of excitement. And then here, keep your sound up. Don't, not too decayed. Let's just do the last bar of that. But stay up, so keep the sound up. If you're going to change the bow, that's fine too. Just keep that turbulence going. So it's breathless. Good, very good. So as you do the sorry in advance, I'm going to butcher this. As you do it, I like that you're slowing down towards the end. Let it get heavier as well as slower. So, so that each note is not just slower, but has a bit more baggage attached to it. Let's go from. Yeah, but that last one, a lot of intensity. So that a rest for you, not in the orchestra. Ba-da-da-bum. So that 16th note has so much intensity. Exactly. And then it's worth it, because otherwise, if it's just, it's not worth the struggle. Okay, let's keep going. Each one of these, the way you leave it should make that 16th note rest feel so much more intense. Let's go right on it. Okay, good. I'm gonna play with you once. As much as possible, try and hear what I'm doing underneath you. So give me. Do you hear what I'm doing?
Yeah, yes, I can hear you.
So what's that from?
The beginning of.
Exactly. So I'm sure you knew that already, but keep that in mind. So what you have is so intense and so important, but it's not the melody. And so what I mean by that, it's not, you don't play any less, you don't play with any less intensity, but it has to serve the melody. It has to make the melody make sense. It has to make sense within the context of the melody. So what that means is that the 16th note rests that you have are so important that they coincide with the melody. Okay, you do it once on your own, right on that moment. That's very good. The first bar of it was fantastic. Keep your tempo. Don't slow down until that's your moment to slow down. But if you slow down too much before the end of it, you run out of air. Let's go from. Good. That was beautiful. And now here, really try and feel those intervals. Almost like they're played together. Beautiful. That was really beautiful. God, I think Sibelius was the master of the major seventh. Anyway, so here we arrive. And it's just like the beginning where the orchestra had that tiptoey bit. Here, the orchestra has the melody. So when we arrive on that, There's no break here. It's tempo right away. Right? And here, each one of these bum, 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 like are like little raindrops. They have to be very rhythmic, not too free. It's not like, right? Here it's accompanimental. So let's go right on it, and this is the last thing we'll do. Just right from. Great. Okay, so I think it's nice to just punctuate the bottom of each of these, just to bring it a little bit, not too much, but just enough that's the onset of sound. And then as you take over the melody, there you can open up a little bit more, because here you want, again, to take the melody away from the orchestra and draw attention to your part. So a little bit more expressive towards the end. Good. Okay, I lied. I'm going to mention one more very quick thing, and then we'll wrap it up. So we have these bunch of E's in the row at the end. Right? This is just about 5 measures before the very end. It's really important to remember that this E flat is a dissonance within the harmony. And so as we intensify it, second one, third one, the reason we're doing that is because it's hard to let go of it. And so as you resolve to the D, don't give up quite so easily. You know, not so easy, but hold on to that E flat for as long as you can get away with. Yeah. Okay. Do you have any questions?
Well, not really.
I know I threw an absolute ton of ideas at you. I hope some of them resonate with you. I hope that it helped you along with your interpretation of this movement. You have such a gorgeous sound, and it's obvious that you can really play the violin. I hope you get the opportunity to play with orchestra sometime, because I think that a lot of your ideas will really mature when you have a chance to put it together with the other parts. So best of luck. It's really nice to hear you play.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Bravo, Eriol. Really, really beautiful playing. And I love how both of you attack the top of the G string bit like it's nothing. And that part feels like you're breaking the violin. I know from playing it myself. You feel like you're just there's no possible way to make it beautiful, and yet you both just did on Zoom. So thank you very much for sharing that with us, Eriol. It's beautiful playing.
Yeah, thank you so much.
I look forward to hearing you in person sometime soon, I hope.
I
Thank
hope
you.
to.
So we have a few minutes left, and do we have any questions from those in the Zoom room? We can go into gallery view maybe, and if anyone wants to ask Erin a question, please do. I have maybe one if no one is feeling brave. Someone will, but I'll go ahead and ask you, Erin. It's interesting hearing you speak to these players today, and how actually none of you who performed have had the chance to play the music that you're performing with anybody else. And I think that's a really strange thing that we're all experiencing right now, like learning new music, or teaching music to people, or helping people along, and you just can't play the other parts, or play with the other parts. And Erin, I absolutely love that you're just like, I'm going to play with them on Zoom. I don't care that it doesn't work, because it's what we all need, isn't it? But actually thinking back into real world times when we were all learning more music than we had time to learn, and performing things on top of each other, you're often trying to study scores or learn, get a global idea of a piece of music without being able to play with the other parts, so that when you do play with the other parts for the 2 hours or 4 hours, or if you're really lucky, 16 hours of rehearsal, you can fit it together very quickly. So, Aaron, I'm wondering if you have any suggestions of how to go about score study in a way that would both help us in pandemic times when we're all alone, but also in a real world, hopefully the future world when we're back playing with people, to learn music on our own, but in a way that we can incorporate the other voices. Does that make sense? That was a lot of
Absolutely.
words.
It's something I do a lot of at work, because I have to quickly learn a program, and in my job as concertmaster of the orchestra, it's essential that I know what other people are doing so that I can react quickly. But it's, with this kind of repertoire, there's so many recordings available. I think the first step is to really find a recording that you like and listen to it with the score. So you have the score in front of you, and you've got the music that you're listening to. And as much as possible, try and follow along what other people are doing. Try and identify what role everyone has. Do they have the melody line? Who are the who's accompanying? But what role is it? Is it rhythmic? Is it sound support? Like, what kind of role do people have? And sometimes I play along with recordings. It sort of feels funny because I play quietly in order to hear what the orchestra is doing, but it at least helps me contextualize my part in the context of the rest of the orchestra. And also sometimes I sing along. That's a great way of naturalizing the music without actually having an instrument in your way. Like, if you can kind of sing along your own part with the orchestra, it's a lot easier to internalize all the other parts.
Yeah, I like to even play the other parts. And sometimes it can really help to know what it feels like to play the other things, not to just have it in your head, but what does that accompanimental line actually physically feel like to play? And then also you don't have to practice your own part because you're doing the other stuff. Cool. I have one other question, but if no one else, this is a quiet crowd today.
Eriol has a question.
Eriol, great, yeah.
Yeah, I want to ask something. I think it's kind of like a big question, but you can answer it simple, because I'm always curious when I meet some professional people. So what is professional means to you? Because all my goal is being professional for my violin career. Yeah, I just want to be professional.
Do you mean like what kind of qualities are professional?
Yeah. What does it mean for you?
That's such an interesting question. First, I'll say you seem very professional to me.
Oh, really?
I think for me, at least the standards I hold myself to, I think it's really important to be prepared for any time you're hired for something, or anytime you show up to play with another person. It's really nice to be able to bring something to the table, to know your part, and also have some ideas about what you want to do with the music, if it's like a chamber music context. I think when you're working with a lot of people like an orchestra, listening is such an important component. Like being able to listen not just to the music while you're playing, but to your colleagues. I think it's really an attitude, it's a state of mind, listening. And when you're playing, like being able to receive what other people are doing while you're trying to play your best. It's difficult. It takes some years to develop that skill. Is that sort of what you mean, or do you mean more like behavior wise?
Yeah, I think I just want to know different people's different answers, then I can make it in my mind by myself. Maybe I'll find an answer for myself in the end. I just want to hear different opinions.
I think that's a really beautiful thought, Eriol, to sort of because that in itself is like part of it, is coming
Exactly.
up with your own set of values, and what's important to you is part of becoming, moving from student to artist is that process. So I think you're asking the right question. It's really great to hear.
I don't have any doubt that you would come across as professional to anyone who met you. You seem very conscientious. I think I'll just say one other thing that I think it's important for people to hear is that as conscientious as you are about respecting other people, I think that's wonderful, and I think your colleagues would appreciate that so much. I think it's also important to really take your space and not be afraid to expect your colleagues to treat you with the same respect. And what I mean by that is if you're part of a group, or if you're hired to play something, you earned your spot there, and you shouldn't ever doubt that. You shouldn't feel like you have to only be subservient and only be there to respect other people. People want to play with you, and so you can feel. I don't know if that's something that you ever have any doubts of, but I remember when I was starting out, like, I made it all about the other people, and I think it's really important to think about what you need also, and what yeah, I'll leave it there.
Thank you very much.
Of course.
Any other questions? I think that's a really nice place to leave it, rather than me asking you something silly. I think that's a wonderful way to end this great session. So thank you to our performers. Thank you to Aaron for being here today. Thank you to our audience, and to our supporters who have helped fund this class. Thank you so much. I've been able to, I think I counted 109 participants, performers to date.
Oh my goodness.
I think this was, I don't know whether it was 29 or 30, but we're getting up there. And it's just been such an amazing way to get through a very tough time. So thank you for being here and being so inspiring, both performers and you, Aaron. Thank you very much. Next week we have, I've got 4 more classes planned. I've taken us through March. I haven't quite decided what to do about the future, because then we will be a year and hopefully coming out of lockdown in April. But if anyone has any ideas of what they'd like to see me do, send messages my way. The next class is next Thursday with Callum Smart. If you haven't seen his Instagram, you need to see his Instagram. So follow him, see him do crazy things on the violin. He will be teaching some Izai, and what else have we got? Last movement of Tchaikovsky Concerto, and some Elgar Concerto, which is one of Callum's specialties. So I'm super excited about that. And then the rest of the month, we've got some chamber music planned, some string quartets, a sonata, good stuff. So come back next week. Have a great rest of your day, rest of your evening, and we'll end the live stream there. Thank you very much.
Congratulations, everybody. It was such a treat to hear you play. It's very brave of you to put these videos up. It's not easy to do in today's circumstances. So really, congratulations, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to hear you